Are you considering a move from Indianapolis, Indiana to Louisville, Kentucky? You might be trying to figure out which city has a better cost of living. How much money are you going to be able to make in each city, and how far will that money get you in regards to your standard of living? Well, in today's video, we're going to answer all of these questions and a lot more, so stick around. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Katie Skeen, a local realtor here in Louisville, Kentucky. And on my channel, we discuss all the things related to moving to and living in Louisville, Kentucky. So if you're interested in this information, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and like this video. That way you'll be notified every single time a new video comes out. I post new videos every Friday and you're not going to want to miss one. Today, we are talking about the cost of living in Indianapolis, Indiana compared to Louisville, Kentucky. Now, we've had some of these comparisons between cities before, and Louisville always wins. Well, I'm a little bit nervous about today's video about who's ultimately going to win this showdown between Indianapolis, Indiana and Louisville, Kentucky. What do you think is going to happen? Be sure to comment below who you think has a better cost of living. The first category we're going to look at is the housing category. Now, I went to the Rocket Mortgage housing update to get these facts and figures. So in Louisville, Kentucky, the median sales price for a home in September of 2022 was $230,507. This is an increase of about 7% in comparison to the same month last year. The median sales price for a home in Indianapolis in September was $231,244. This is actually a 15.4% increase from last year at the same time. So when we look at these median sales prices, they are really, really close together, but we do notice that homes in Indianapolis are actually appreciating more quickly. The housing prices are going up faster than in comparison to Louisville, Kentucky. I wanted to show you two different houses to give you an idea of what you're going to be able to get close to the city in Indianapolis or Louisville, Kentucky. This first home that we see in Louisville, Kentucky actually sold last year for $299,900. It's 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, 1,744 square feet. It's located in the Deer Park area of the Highlands neighborhood, which is just south of our city. Now let's look at what your money can buy you in Indianapolis, Indiana. This home sold in October of 2022 for $275,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,726 square feet. This home is located just north of downtown Indianapolis near Butler University. It seems like the housing category is pretty close when we compare Indianapolis to Louisville. I'm going to be giving you a cost of living index score for each one of these categories. So when you think about the cost of living index, you want to understand that 100 represents our national average. So if the score is below 100, then that city has below national average. If it's above 100, then it represents that the cost of living for that category is higher than the national average. When we look at the housing category for both Indianapolis and Louisville, we see that the score for Louisville is 70.9 and the score for Indianapolis is 62.7. So we do see that for the housing category, the cost of living is a bit more affordable in Indianapolis compared to Louisville. The next category that I want to look at is salary. What can you expect to make in both of these cities, and how does each job kind of compare to one another? Well, in Louisville, Kentucky, you can expect to make about $65,000 a year as the average base salary, whereas in Indianapolis, it sits right at $67,000. So those two numbers are very close together. However, Indianapolis, Indiana employers do tend to pay their employees about 3.2% higher for the same job in comparison to Louisville, Kentucky. So while the numbers are very close, it is accurate to say that in Indianapolis, you can expect to make a slightly higher wage. The next two categories I want to share with you about are transportation and healthcare related expenses. Now we're going to look at our cost of living scores for both of these categories. The transportation score for Louisville, Kentucky is 103.2. The transportation score for Indianapolis, Indiana is 90.8. So as you can see, Indianapolis has a much more affordable transportation score. It's interesting that Louisville, Kentucky always tends to be less than the national average for, expenses and costs, but for this one category of transportation, it is about 3% higher than our national average. So you are going to be saving money on transportation if you live in Indianapolis, Indiana. The next score I want to share with you is our healthcare related score. Now, this category actually puts Louisville as the winner. The Louisville healthcare score is 94.8, whereas the Indianapolis healthcare score is 100.3. It's sitting right at our national average. I was curious, why do you think that it's more expensive for healthcare in Indianapolis? Does anyone have any ideas? Go ahead and comment below if you know why the healthcare is more expensive in Indianapolis. One possible reason why I thought it might be lower in Louisville could be related to health insurance. We have Humana here. It also could be related to our hospital system with U of L and Norton Healthcare. I'm not quite sure. The next category I want to look at is the food and grocery category. Now, this one is a little bit of a mystery to me, so I did a little bit of digging and I actually set up a Kroger pickup order in both Louisville, Kentucky and Indianapolis, Indiana to compare some of our basics that you'd be buying at the grocery store. The first food item I looked at was Dave's Killer Bread. We like to have this with our eggs in the morning. I don't know what kind of bread you like, but in both places, the bread was going to be $5.99. So this is a tie between Indianapolis and Louisville. Next, let's look at eggs. If you're going to get 1.5 dozen of eggs in Indianapolis, Indiana, you can expect to pay $6.49 for these eggs, in comparison to Louisville, Kentucky, where you can expect to pay $5.39. So for the eggs, you're going to save a little bit of money in Louisville. In my video comparing Nashville, Tennessee to Louisville, Kentucky, we were outraged by the cost of a gallon of milk in comparison to Louisville. So let's see how Indianapolis stacks up. 1 gallon of 2% Kroger milk in Indianapolis, Indiana is $3.19 in comparison to Louisville, Kentucky, where the milk costs $1.59. Why is milk so much less expensive in Louisville in comparison to all these other cities? When we look at these Kroger pickup orders, it does appear that you're going to save some money on food and groceries in Louisville in comparison to Indianapolis, Indiana. The mysterious part about the food and grocery category is related to the cost of living index score. When we look at food and groceries for Louisville, Kentucky, they have a score of 97. Whereas Indianapolis, Indiana has a score of 93.7. So on that index scale, they're actually putting Indianapolis as slightly more affordable. But according to my research on the milk, eggs, bread, the basics from Kroger, you are going to save money here in Louisville. The last thing we want to look at is kind of the total overall score on the National Cost of Living Index. Louisville gets a score of 89.7, whereas Indianapolis gets a score of 84.9. So as you can see, Indianapolis actually wins this showdown challenge for the better cost of living. You are going to stretch your dollar a little bit further in Indianapolis. You're going to make a slightly higher wage, but I will say they are overall very comparable in their cost of living. They both have a very low cost of living in comparison to the rest of our nation. If you're thinking about moving to Louisville, Kentucky, don't be too discouraged by this cost of living comparison. There's many great reasons to live in Louisville. Be sure to check out one of my other videos, Moving to Louisville, Kentucky, 12 Things You Need to Know, so you can hear all of the great things about our city. I hope you've enjoyed this video on the cost of living of Louisville, Kentucky versus Indianapolis, Indiana. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next week.